Okay, here we are looking at trig identities. You don't have to memorize them if you understand where they come from. So all of it's based on a right triangle drawn inside of a unit circle. The definition of a unit circle, it has a radius of 1. This is my angle theta. I know that sine of theta is equal to my opposite over my hypotenuse. Right, sine of theta is equal to my opposite over my hypotenuse. And since my hypotenuse is 1, I can see the opposite side is the same thing as sine of theta, and also my adjacent side would be cosine of theta. Okay, and then I do have SOHCAHTOA memorized, which means the sine of any angle is the ratio of the opposite over the hypotenuse, the cosine, the adjacent over the hypotenuse, the tangent, the opposite over the adjacent. And then the last thing I do know as well, and because it is Greek, it's hard to remember. Cosecant is a reciprocal of sine, so it's hypotenuse over opposite. Secant, reciprocal of cosine. And then cotan, that's the only one that sounds like a reciprocal. So tan and cotan are reciprocals. So I use that information and derive my 6 reciprocal identities. Sine of theta is equal to 1 over cosecant of theta. And the converse is also true. Cosecant is equal to 1 over sine. The third one is cosine of theta is equal to 1 over secant. And secant is equal to 1 over cosine. The fifth and sixth ones are tan and cotan. Tangent of theta is equal to 1 over cotan. And cotan is equal to 1 over tan. So those are my 6 reciprocal identities. From there I go to my 2 quotient identities, 7 and 8. My quotient identity is tangent of that angle. Tangent of that angle is opposite over adjacent. So tan of theta is equal to sine over cosine. And cotan of that given angle is adjacent over opposite. So that would be cosine over sine. Then the last 3 I'm going to look at are my 3 Pythagorean identities. Number 9, just working off of this triangle here, I have one leg squared plus the other leg squared equals hypotenuse squared. So my first Pythagorean identity is cosine squared of theta plus sine squared of theta is equal to 1 squared or just 1. So that's my Pythagorean identity. The next one, number 10, is that same one divided by cosine squared on both sides. So cosine squared over cosine squared is 1. Sine squared over cosine squared, that's down here, is tangent. So tangent times tangent. So tangent squared. And then 1 divided by cosine, 1 over cosine, is right here, secant squared. So 1 plus tan squared of theta is equal to secant squared of theta. That's my second Pythagorean identity. And then my third Pythagorean identity down here is now I'm going to divide through not by cosine squared but by sine squared of theta. I don't know if you can see that. So I have cosine squared divided by sine squared. Cosine divided by sine, that's right here. Cotangent squared of theta. Get a little lazy keeping my thetas in there. Sine squared over sine squared is 1. 1 over sine squared is 1 over sine is cosecant squared. So those are my 11 key identities. Again, you don't have to have them memorized. You do need to know that cosine is your adjacent, sine is your opposite. You need to know what these 6 words mean, and that cosecant and sine are reciprocals. Cosine and secant are reciprocals, tan and cotan. These sound like reciprocal. I remember these at C and S go together, C and S go together.